that extraordinary feeling, how could this have been lost? How could anything of this quality have been lost? Recovered Voices is a project designed to bring to the stage, to the concert hall, music by composers whose lives were impacted by the Nazi regime. This is our first fully staged production under the Recovered Voices project, and it consists of two one-act operas. One is a comedy and one is a tragedy. They merit, on their own terms, to be a part of the repertoire. In fact, it has nothing to do with the fact that they were victims of the Nazis. My heart goes out to the individuals as victims, but my admiration is unbounded by the intrinsic value of these works. The first of the two one-act operas we are performing is a comedy by Viktor Ullmann. It is based on a classic German play called The Broken Jug. Viktor Ullmann was interned in Terezin for over 2 years. In that time, he wrote over 20 compositions. He was transported to Auschwitz, where he lost his life. The last piece he wrote before going into the concentration camp was this opera, The Broken Jug. It will receive its American premiere here in Los Angeles Opera. I think the most striking historical fact about Viktor Ullmann is the extraordinary role that he played in the concentration camp at Terezin. He, in fact, was the leading light of the entire cultural life of the musicians in the concentration camp. He wrote many compositions himself. He encouraged other people to write. He encouraged the concerts, the chamber music concerts. He collaborated, even writing articles and critiques of those concerts. And in general, he was a person with his strong, life-affirming attitude who tried to help all of his inmates. He and his fellow composers and musicians were all transported and died on their second day in Auschwitz. The second one-act opera is a tragedy, written by Alexander Zemlinsky, in my opinion, one of the greatest of the composers whose music was suppressed. The story is about a dwarf who is given as a present to the young Infanta of Spain, the daughter of King Philip II. Heartrending and tragic. I have never seen it fail. I have performed it very often in Europe, and I think it is so moving that it will not fail to move our audiences. He was to flee the Nazis twice, the first time in 1934, back to his native Vienna, and the second time in 1938 from Vienna, where he emigrated to the United States. He spent his last 4 years, old, isolated, not speaking English, living on the west side of Manhattan. He passed away in 1942. It has been suggested, and I must say only suggested, that the dwarf actually represents the Jewish person who is persecuted, who is an outsider. But theater, you know, is about what it suggests, so maybe. Forcing its greatest talents and geniuses to flee and to emigrate was in fact an enormous act of self-mutilation that the Nazis brought upon the German nation. What they had done essentially was to uproot a garden that had been growing and flourishing for over 2 centuries. The loss of that enormous talent was a loss to them as well as to the world. The purpose of Recovered Voices is to put that music back on the map so that it can be heard, and heard in the context of the times. It's very, very special because I think this is something that needs to be done.